Welcome back to the Am Sam Radio, the podcast for creatives. It is I, the mayor of Global Boys, in the mayor's office here, hanging with people that are doing the dang thing in culture, in business, and with society. I want to join Mill, the guy with me today, the CEO of Black Wall Street Empire. What a name, brother. Thanks for being on the show.
Hey, what'd you say?
Thanks for being on the show today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I just Black Wall Street Empire, man. That has a lot of connotations. That's kind of the umbrella name for all your business segments. We'll get into in just a second. What was the reason to call your business Black Wall Street Empire?
Well, the name came about. Actually, Black Wall Street Empire started out as a study group, and I actually have a partner. At the time, I had two partners. A brother poet, who's a mentor of mine, and then there was a brother Amin Ra. Both of them are elders, and the brother Amin Ra, peace be upon him, he's not here anymore, but I have to give him credit for half of the name because he came up with the Black Wall Street aspect of it. Of course, I'm sure you probably know Black Wall Street. It was a business district in the early 1900s. Was a independent black business district. So the concept behind Black Wall Street Empire is about economic and financial independence, and also educating our community on different things. Public law, private law, economics. So the Black Wall Street part of the name came from the brother Amin Ra because he wanted to basically model it and structure it behind that, and honor our ancestors, our current ancestors. I put the empire on it because the empire is based off of a West African model.
Okay.
And we deal with a lot of African culture, and basically the whole corporate structure is based after African model, and that's and the basically the West African model of creating empires went from families to tribes to municipalities to empires, but at the way it came about was they were all merged together. So two families would merge together and form a tribe.
Yeah.
Two tribes merged together, that's a municipality. Two municipalities come together. Now you got an empire. So you got, like, throughout West African history, some of our greatest, what they don't teach us in school, but some of our greatest civilizations was like the Moroccan Empire, the Songhai Empire, the Mali Empire. I do a lot of research on that. So we wanted to kind of like structure it after like a great American business district, and a great civilization in America that did great things like Black Wall Street, and then put the empire on it, which was, kind of like giving up to our ancestors in Africa. So hence you got Black Wall Street Empire. And then the way the business is actually structured, it's basically have that model because you got several different investments and ideas and business ideas. And then we network with a lot of people that bring, that form an empire. And eventually the goal is to become an economic powerhouse. So in order to become an economic powerhouse in the way the corporate structure work nowadays in America, you have to be invested into a lot of different, areas. They say you have to have 7 different streams of income in order to become wealthy. So
Sure.
that's how the organization is based off of, from a business perspective. And then of course we put, the African perspective into it. We try to merge everything we do with some type of ancient culture, and honoring our ancestors as well.
Yeah, and so the structure of it is from a corporate governance standpoint. You're on top, the CEO, co-founder. Is there like a board of trustees? Is it kind of like a solo situation? Like what? How is it as you move these businesses forward?
It's me and brother Poet. That's my partner, brother Poet. It's pretty much us. He has a certain aspect of the business that he pretty much handled, and I have a certain aspect that I pretty much handle. Poet is really more so do things privately. If anybody's familiar with public law and private law, he likes to move in the private, pretty
Sure,
much on the
sure.
private side, and then I deal with public and private.
Okay, let's take a look at this portfolio. I was impressed when I came through it. There is a beauty care, skin care line as one aspect, urban apparel, credit services, investments, even a youth upliftment division. We'll go through all of these in just a second, but I got to ask you, as someone that is overlooking these verticals, if you will, how do you keep juggling those plates? How do you keep moving the needle for each different segment as you try to build Black Wall Street Empire?
Sometimes it can be frustrating and challenging.
I
It
bet,
can be
brother.
dealing with when you do as much when you went into as many things as I'm into, you had to deal with a lot of people,
Hmm.
and I'm up for the challenge because I study someone named Dr. Claude Anderson. Are you familiar with Dr. Claude Anderson?
No, I'm not. Tell me more.
All right, Dr. Claude Anderson is basically an economist. He wrote a book called Powernomics, and
Okay.
I studied the Dr. Claude Anderson philosophy, where he teaches that melanated people we have to play a group game. Economics is a group sport,
Okay.
and in order to build a strong community, you have to have a group, a group effort. Most other ethnic races, that's what they do. That's how they build their communities to be strong. So I really, really believe in that theory, and I really hold tight to that. He has a book called Powernomics, which is basically my economic Bible. I read it all the time. So while it's hard to deal with people, you're dealing with many personalities. People have their own things that they into. So it's frustrating and hard, but I really believe in the group economic theory, and I
Hmm.
really believe in. I'm really committed to bringing wealth and economic empowerment and information to our community, and I really want to see our people move forward and compete economically and become powerful. I want to see that. Like, I know the history of our people, so I want to be a part of our people being back on top. Like, I don't like suffering. I don't like being oppressed. I like winning. So I'm really committed to that.
Yeah.
So that's what motivated me to be able to keep going and deal with like many different people. And then I also understand that in order to move forward, you need help. I mean, you can't
True.
do anything in this world by yourself. So what I do is I pray to the ancestors to bring me motivated people and people who have like interests and people who have like interests who I can work with, and the universe really usually deliver it to me. But it's hard to answer your question,
Yeah.
but that's my motivation. The Powernomics theory by Dr. Claude Anderson, that's my motivation. So that keeps me motivated to keep doing that because I know it's the right thing to do. You
Yeah.
just have to persevere.
Well, that makes sense because now, from the outside looking in, these segments look kind of disparate. But now, hearing that, there is a through line about empowering through many different ways. You look good, you smell good, you're financially good, you're good, right? That's kind
Yeah.
of the vibe. I was looking at your product line, B2B products and services, personal care products. You're launching colognes and perfumes, man. I've dabbled with talking with other people in that industry. That right, they could be very tricky to find what's needed, what's wanted. What's been your experience, man, launching cologne, launching perfumes for the community?
Okay. I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna tell you how the fragrance line came about, right?
Okay, tell me.
Now, this gonna be an interesting story.
I love it.
Okay, before I started the business, before we started, right, I used to actually sell oils. I'm sure like you familiar with like the Muslim guys that sell the Muslim
Mhm.
oils and everything. Okay,
Yeah.
I used to do that. Now, at the time, I always was looking I was kind of like, I don't want to say I was in the streets like in a bad way, but I was in the streets like from a hustle perspective. I wasn't
Yeah.
legally, incorporated into business,
Building
but I
human
was looking to
connections.
go. Yeah, I was looking to go into that route. So at the time, back in the day before everything was digital, we used to sell CDs and movies. So I was actually selling CDs and movies,
Yeah.
and I was selling oils. I was selling the Muslim oils, right? So I used to mix of my fragrances together and wear it. Like I would wear mix fragrances together and wear it. And everywhere I would go, everybody would always ask me what I had on. And they would always say, "What you got on? Where can I get it from? Where can I get it?" It was actually something that I mixed.
Yeah.
So when I was just brainstorming through business, ideas to come, what can I do to start a business? This is like when before I even got started, I was always brainstorming on what can I do to just get started in business. And like before we even started the study group and everything. And I was just into studying business, I was just entering the study of business and commerce.
Mhm.
And people kept asking me, and then one day it just hit me. It said, people always ask me what I wear, what I got on. They would ask, sometimes they would even ask, could you get it for me? When I would tell them like I made it myself, they would say, well, could you make it for me?
Yeah.
So I said, hey, I'm gonna turn this into a fragrance line. That's exactly how the men's fragrance came about.
Okay.
So, and then of course, If you're gonna do it for the men, you got to do it for the ladies. So, like I said, I was into selling oils already, so I knew how to create. Well, I knew how to mix oils. I Googled and researched how to actually make a perfume and how to make cologne and perfume. Of course, I did my research on the price of the products, and I did my price point, did my due diligence.
Yeah.
And once I did that, the way the numbers was looking, I was like, hey, this the first, this is gonna be my first incorporated business right here, fragrance line.
Yeah.
And then I did further research. This take me back to Claude Anderson. I was reading the book Powernomics. He has a section in that book where he talks about how black people should have, how we do have competitive advantages in certain industries. And those industries, he feels like black people should control those industries from a retail and a distribution perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So of course it's hard to control the industry from a distribution. So we got a long way to go.
Yeah.
But I definitely feel like we have, we have to get into these different industries from a retail perspective. So, and one of those industries is fragrances and cosmetics and everything. So it just lined up perfect with, the whole philosophy that I have. But that's basically how the fragrance came about. And the price point, you were saying it could be tricky and difficult. So it was basically tested. At least the men's fragrance was already market tested just by me wearing the fragrance. So I kind of like
Right.
knew I had a market for it already. So that was kind of like taken care of. I had confidence that I could make a female fragrance. Actually, the first fragrance I made, I had to change it because, but I basically listened to my market. But the reason why it was an excellent business to go into is because nowadays we in a climate where you at the click of a button you can get products and you can get resources and for pennies on a dollar. So I took advantage of research to be able to get the packaging and everything. It's not
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
expensive. So basically my the way I create the product, my knowledge of creating the product, I can create a very quality product because my fragrance lasts a long time. It's just as the quality is just as good as anything you'll find in a store.
Yeah.
But I can sell it at a discounted rate to where I feel like people in our community can afford it. So it's like the way I market it is like you getting a top of the line fragrance for pennies on a dollar because I don't spend as much money for the packaging. In the
Yeah.
fragrance industry, what most people don't know, when you pay for a fragrance, you're usually paying for the packaging. You're not really
Okay.
paying for the quality of the fragrance.
Sure.
You're really paying for the packaging. It costs sometimes it can cost $20 to $30 just to package a fragrance. So of course they
Wow.
have to charge you hundreds of dollars. And then if they're paying a, a athlete or entertainer for marketing, you know millions of dollars for marketing, then they have to even charge even more. So usually the cost of a fragrance is coming from the packaging and the marketing expenses. I don't
Mm.
have a big marketing cost and I don't have, the packaging cost. So I can sell my fragrance for, $15, $20 and make really make a good profit. So that's really
Yeah.
about how it came about.
So right now I'm currently looking at the website for blackwallstreetempire.com, which these fragrances are now available. And I realize the cologne is called King Ra. And the perfume is called Sister Seven. So talk to me about the naming convention. So how do you decide to name which fragrance, which name, and what the names mean to you?
Okay. King Ra, again, like I spoke on earlier, we like to have intertwine our ancient culture into almost like everything we do.
Mm-hmm.
So King Ra, King is, I feel like we all kings, brothers,
Yeah.
me, you, all my
Yeah.
brothers. I feel like we kings. I don't feel like we kings. I know we kings because when you study our ancient history, we come from that type of bloodline. I don't know if you ever study like Kemetic history, African history. We had a lot of kings and queens, in pre-dynastic history. So even though we went through a hard period, slavery and segregation, and everything, we still have that ancient bloodline, and we have the DNA to get back to that level and on this physical planet. So I feel like we all kings. All my brothers are kings, and the word sister, of course, when we speak of women, we speak of sister. That's the
Right.
sister right there. So that's where those two words come from. Now, Ra is the Egyptian sun god. In ancient
Mm,
Egypt, Kemetic history, Kemet is the original word for Egypt. So if you hear me speak of Kemet, I'm speaking of Egypt.
sure.
So in ancient Kemet, the Egyptians they worship Ra, the deity Ra, which is actually the sun, because the sun, it gives life to everything. Like the sun gives life to plant life. Without the sun, you basically everything on the earth would die. So
Right.
the Egyptians honored the sun as a deity. So that's where the word Ra come from. So it's King Ra is basically giving us paying homage to our ancestors and our ancient culture. Everything I do, I try to make it cultural. And
Sure.
then seven is the number of law. If you study numbers, all
Hmm.
numbers have a different meaning in society. So seven is like a sacred number in law. We got seven chakras. That's where you get 7 days, the 7 days in a week.
Okay.
That's like a universal number right there. So that's where the number seven come from on the name.
Oh yeah, for sure. And there's also companion pieces. If you're looking at the Shea Butter line right now on your website, blackwallstreetempire.com. And well, a lot of times when you create things for the body, soul, and mind, someone always says, "Yo, this is great, but what's next?" Do you have the wave two, wave three already on deck? How does that look like? How does the rotations look like? How does your rollouts look like when these products are available?
Far as the product lines, I have other ideas, but I'm like right now I'm just concentrating on building these up into brands.
Sure.
I have come across a lot of ideas, but I really I have to solidify these first before I, can move on to something else. Like I gotta
Yeah.
I've had I flirted with a purse line, a Sister Seven purse line. I'm also
Okay.
looking for the perfect brand ambassador too. I
Yeah.
went through a few different brand ambassadors in the past. Most of the time they really don't have a real business. They're not really business oriented, or they don't really see the potential even in themselves. So if I find a perfect brand ambassador, like then I think that'll help me segue into other products, because I'll have someone who I can depend on to be solid. But a purse line is something that I'm thinking about, but as of now, I'm just really putting my energy into the fragrance, the clothing line, all the other things I do too. They keep me, that stuff keep me
Yeah.
super busy. But as far as the branding go, the brands is the cologne, perfume, shea butter line, and the clothing line. That's my real focus right now.
Yeah,
But
that
go ahead.
that's kind of a mistake a lot of new entrepreneurs make. They go, I got like 30 ideas and kind of throw it all at once without focusing on. So it's actually a smart play to have a couple products now, build up a little bit of a following and move it on. Very, very smart move. And you mentioned the clothing line, and I know clothing lines are capturing a vibe. Streetwear does change. Like, what's been your experience to find out, navigate that, to be fresh, to be different, not be enveloped by big guys, because how big fashion labels steal ideas from the culture. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean that's you got it right there.
Yeah.
It's very very important that we control our culture. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So that's another part of why I had the fragrance. I mean, I have the clothing line, and that go back to the Claude Anderson theory too. We have to control our culture. We have to control the economy and the industries that we spend our money in. So I mean, who else besides us to know what we like to wear? So
Right.
that was the thinking behind that. Like I've always dressed nice, not to toot my own horn, but
Okay. Yeah.
I've
No, go
always
ahead,
dressed
man.
nice. So I mean, and I look at what other people wear too. Like anytime I'm out in the public, period, like I'm always looking at the way people dress. I'm just an observer of our community. I'm an observer of society. I'm an observer of nature. So just me being an observer, and I definitely I love our culture, like hip hop culture, urban culture. I'm tuned in. Like I'm on YouTube. I'm looking at all the podcasts. Your podcast I'm up on now.
Okay.
I'm looking
Thank you.
at podcasts. I'm looking at the hip hop community. I'm a part of the conscious community, so I'm always, staying in tune with the urban culture. So, I just basically take what we doing and then I put it into the clothing line, and then
Yeah.
it did pretty good. I actually just did the clothing line this past summer, and I did pretty good. So I'm about to launch my second apparel designs this spring.
Yeah, I mean, look, I have a question that's perhaps proprietary. You can say it's a trade secret if you want, but like, what's been the rollout like? Are you doing the pop up shops? Are you doing the fashion shows? How to get the word out of a new clothing line, especially when people have more options than ever before?
Oh yeah, for sure. I definitely did pop up shop. That's another thing I do. I'm a promoter too, so I
Okay, yeah,
promoted a lot of pop up shops. That's when I first started out. I haven't done the pop up shops in a while because the COVID kind of like shut it down,
yeah. You're
and
right.
I had
You're
a
right.
couple of bad experiences. But I'm about to get back started with that. So yes, the pop up shops, of course, online, the website. I sell in several different marketplaces, and this is for the audience too. You got Big Commerce, you got SD, you got a WeBuyBlack.com, you got eBay.
Hmm.
There's several different online basically marketplaces where you can sell clothes. So like mostly everything on digital is the way to go because that connects you to nationally and internationally.
Yeah,
So that I'm bigger than local. So that the e-commerce game is definitely big for as the clothing go. And then locally in the city, I do the pop-up shops. I actually got my clothes in a store. I had a contract with a store. It's kind of slow, but I'm gonna pump that up in the spring. And then I just get out in the community and deal with the people. Like I touch the people. I'm
yeah.
on the ground. I pound the pavement. I'm right. I'm in the community every day. I'm out here with my people.
Yeah, man. And let me ask you this: what's an issue you've seen that the community is learning for, yearning for, looking for solutions to help uplift your community? What's something that people say, man, I wish we had support in this area in our lives, and how is your company helping with that?
With me personally, I deal with the youth.
Mm-hmm.
I work for for 2 years with a gang prevention organization called Renounce Denounce. Um, this past year we did sponsorship for a youth football team, so we definitely into the sponsoring our youth organizations. I used to work for an organization called Peace in the Hood, and now I'm starting a new mentorship program with a brother named Harambe East.
Okay.
Shout out to East when he see this. Shout out to him. And we're gonna be working in Glenville High School with trouble youth. So I really like to work with trouble youth. I like
Yeah.
to give them, educate them because I find that it's easier to have influence over young people than it is over older people. With older people, it's kind of like if they come looking for information, I'll give it to them. But I really want to get the information to young people. Plus, I went through a lot of hardships in my youth, in my young days. So I want to give back to my community and try to help somebody avoid the troubles that I went through. So that's really my passion in that area. So
Yeah.
and investing in our youth, like sponsorship. We did some sponsorships this year. Me and a lot of my partners,
Mm-hmm.
Black Wall Street and other partners that I have. Shout out to Just Fly. Shout out to Sister Aset. And I'm definitely going to continue to go down that route because we have to invest in our own community and our own youth and our own organization. So I'm definitely, going to invest dollars into that. So that's how I like to give back.
Yeah, I'm gonna go off script for a second. Let me ask you a question. Why do you think people don't invest in their communities? Why do we put our money outside when we have the chance? In your opinion?
Well, I think is we've been miseducated. That's
Mm-hmm.
my man. You talking about us? Our people that look at us?
I'm just saying in general, man. That's you can interpret
Yeah,
it well. Yeah.
yeah. Well, most of us been miseducated, and we also are individual thinkers. We've been miseducated. We individual. We think most of our people think individually is like that. We only care about if we doing good and we made it. We feel like we there, as opposed to trying to bring us all up. I think most people don't understand that if cause and effect is something that's real. So if you doing good, but somebody else is not, I mean, somebody else in your community or your people that look like you that's not doing good, the effect of them doing bad can cause it to come back to you. I think most people don't understand that concept, and we haven't been taught. I mean, it's like in the '80s, the '80s, the crack came through our community, and it
Hmm.
really like education wise, and just it really damaged our community. So we still, I mean, we just now coming back from that. We just now coming back from that whole devastation. Like in the 80s and 90s, crack devastated our community. So we lost a lot of people mentally during those periods. So, and we just really haven't been educated to that. Like in the
Sure.
going back to Black Wall Street, we had that at some point in time. I wasn't alive. I wasn't born at that time. So I can't
Sure.
say I've done a little research. But at some point in time, we got disconnected. So, it's going to take, people who willing to come out there and teach our community to, bring that back. That's why I like working with the youth, because you can give it to them. Like, when you born and when you young and you molded and you going through certain experiences and the culture that you brought up in, that shapes the way you think in life. That's very important, the culture that you brought up in. So I try to give back and create a culture for the young people and be an example. That's another thing. Be a example, not just talk about it, but actually be the example of what I would like to see in our community. So I try to focus on that. So I think
Yeah.
if we have more people going into these schools and and teaching our youth these things, I think that we can get back to that as a people. But to answer your question, it's miseducation. We've been tremendously miseducated as a people, and
Mhm.
it's going to take a very big effort to try to bring us back to that, to what we
Uh,
used to.
for those listening who are unfamiliar with the Black Wall Street part of our American history, the Tulsa Race Massacre around June 1921, it's where Black Wall Street really comes from. It's a very dark time in our country's history, which is a lot of dark times in our history. I believe you're so educated. It really did change the course of Black wealth. For those who do know, you know the deal.
Yeah.
But talking about that, empowering others, investing in our communities, you do have investment services available as well under your banner, and that to me is pretty cool. That you're going to try to empower everyone through financial literacy. What's that been like? Has there been a reception of that information? Has it been a little bit challenging to get the word out about that arm of your business? What's been the experience?
Um, it's always challenging when you giving our people some type of education and knowledge. But when people have hardships, that's when most of the people I get. So it's like I do credit services.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, that's something that's very big in our community, and a lot of our people struggle with that. So I do get a lot of customers when people go through hardships. That's when they usually come to me, and I'm very proud about that because I've helped people buy houses. Most of the time, most people want to buy houses and cars, so I have helped people do that. So that's probably the highlight of my life for real, is having someone text me after buying a house and telling me that thanks, what you did for me. That's really the highlight of my life. So it's challenging when you're trying to educate people to that, but when
Yeah,
people have hardships and they come into you for help, then that's not challenging because they need the help. So you know
yeah.
I'll be there for them.
And that's like seminars, one-on-one consulting, ebooks. What's the mix?
Well, I repair credit. We have done seminars. We actually going to get more into that this year, but
Okay.
I try to focus on doing consultations with people to give them the information and just uh, credit repair. I repair credit, so if someone comes to me and they just need their credit repaired, I also do CPN numbers. I like it's a whole phase to credit, like for us business credit, CPN numbers, and just plain credit repair. So as far as like me communicating with people, is usually repairing their credit or doing a consultation to teach them how to build business credit and structure their business in a way to where they can get financing in the name of a business and not just personally.
Well, I mean, it's still pretty early here in 2022. Black Wall Street Empire seems to be growing and thriving. What's the next step? What's that look like? What do you plan on doing? How do you grow your businesses as CEO?
Well, they continue to build the brands, everything that. Well, I'm gonna say this: we got investments in real estate. I'm gonna call out the investments, and that'll kind of like take me into the future. We have investments in real estate. We in the process of purchasing land right now in the city and throughout the inner city, because in the city of Cleveland, we going through a gentrification period right now, and the lots is really not that expensive. It's not that expensive, and it's also a process that you can go through applications to purchase lots. So a lot of our people's not doing that. So like I'm really focused on that right now. So the acquisition of land, I have real estate. I've done real estate in the past, and I currently have real estate now. That's where I plan on getting rich at, the real estate game, because that's the, you know, it's the stakes and the money and the profit margin in real estate is tremendous. So in the future of Black Wall Street is my my focus, my main focus in that area is going to be real estate, far as the you know, when it comes to the wealth building. But I do want to focus on brands, because just building brands it brings in a lot of cash flow income, and
Yeah.
cash flow is definitely important when you trying to run an organization in a corporation, because especially in the real estate can go, you know, up and down, and it can be slow, you know, at certain times. So you definitely need to keep the cash flow coming in. So the branded products, the real estate, land acquisition, um, credit, of course, we're gonna keep doing the credit, stay in the credit business, because that's making our people aware, as well as bringing in cash flow, and the close and private info. That's
Sure.
the that's the future of BWE. But real estate and youth education is probably going to be the main focus going forward in the future. But as of this year, we're gonna build the brands, and we're gonna really, you know, do big things in this real estate.
Oh, absolutely. And shout out to the personal care product line, Shea Butter, Oatmeal Soap, King Raw, and Sister 7. Also available now at blackwallstreetempire.com. Milda God, thank you so much for being on the show, man. I learned a lot about your process, and hopefully that someone listening now could be inspired to start their own empire.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. These the brands too. Like, to your audience, that's the King Rock Cologne. I
Mhm.
don't know if they can see that.
got stuck in the background, but it's
Yeah, the
okay.
background. Yes, yeah,
But it's,
I don't know. My computer might not be powerful enough. And Sister 7, I would encourage everybody to go to my website, blackwallstreetempire.com, and try out that fragrance. If there's anybody out there that love to smell good, I'm telling you, you'll never be able to purchase a fragrance that lasts as long as this fragrance is, that's as quality as this fragrance is, for the cost. $15.
mhm.
$15. I promise you won't find a fragrance as strong or with the quality, I mean, that strong or lasts as long as my fragrances, for the cost that it is. Like, it's my fragrance is better than $1,000 bottle of cologne and perfume. I promise you. So they can go out there, blackwallstreetempire.com, look for the clothes, and also anybody out there with credit problems. If you trying to buy that car, that house, you definitely can contact me, blackwallstreetempire.com.
Absolutely. We'll keep that website in the show notes. Once again, thanks, Milton God, for being on the show. I want you back, man. I want to see how it grows a year from now, 2 years from now, down the road.
Yeah, definitely. I'll definitely be hitting you up. I'll probably hit you up this spring when I drop that new the new apparel line.
Okay, I'll be here for
Yep.
that for sure.